to the Mother Days podcast. I am your host, Sarah Wright Olsen.
And I'm Teresa Palmer. And I've got my goofy little headphones on. Woo! Oh, man. I just hopefully you won't be interrupted by 17,000 coughs during this episode. But as you can tell, my voice, I'm a little bit sick. Actually, this is like a weekend, so hopefully I'm not actually sick. We're recording this in a very funky way today. I am without my proper microphone, even though if you're watching YouTube, you'd be like, oh, her microphone's right there. It is not connected. This is a disconnected microphone. I'm using it as a prop. My phone is my microphone. Unfortunately, in transit somewhere, somehow, my cloud lifter, which we use to power up our Shure SM50, is it SM50?
I guess. I don't even know what it's called.
Microphone got left behind in the hotel somewhere. So this is going to be an interesting episode. It sort of adds to what has been happening in my life recently, the one chaotic thing after chaotic thing.
I can't wait to hear all about it. We have not had Teresa around. It's been crickets. We had like full on fun, nonstop hanging and our live event. And then Tez jetted off to go shoot a show. And then I was like just dying for her to get back because I haven't heard from her in so long. So we are going to jump right in and chat and just talk about all the things. So tell us how it's been going. Tell us everything.
How has it been going? It has been going good. I've been in Dublin, Ireland. I have a really brilliant accent. My Irish accent is incredible. I think I've performed it for you before on the podcast. And when you're there, I can't help but try to do the accent when you're talking to someone.
I'm sure.
You'll start talking a little bit like this and you start talking back to them and then you realize that actually that's probably mocking and they don't enjoy that at all, but you really can't help yourself. So anyway, I've been in Dublin. I went with all the kids and my mum. And I was there finishing the last few days of my show mixtape. During the week that we were there, I had 2 trips to the ER with my children. The first trip was for Bodhi. The second trip was for Prairie. And the first trip I was there was a nurse who had seen A Discovery of Witches and she was like, oh my gosh, Dr. Diana Bishop. I was like, I know, yes, here I am. So the doctor here is at the ER with her child who has like head to stomach, full blown rash, like the most insane rash you can imagine, which started on the plane from Australia to, it was like Australia. We went Australia, or Adelaide to Sydney, Sydney to Singapore, Singapore to Heathrow, Heathrow to Dublin.
Oh my God.
I started noticing his face was really flaring up on the plane. It was like very, very red and intense. And I thought that maybe he was having an allergic reaction to Blistex that he was using. And then it just progressively
that stuff is so bad
got
for
worse. I know, but he had been given this lip balm he had had a sleepover at a friend's house and he swore by this lip balm. He was like, you know, my friend's mum gave me this lip balm and it's really helping my chapped lips. And so I was like, okay, cool. Well, if you're enjoying it, then that's fine. He was like, my lips feel so much better. Cut to like full blown breakout rash on the face, which just progressively got worse and worse to the point that when we got to Heathrow, I was like, we need to see a pharmacist. What is going on? I didn't know if it was something he picked up on the plane. Of course, I was like, is it viral? Is it bacterial? Is it just an allergic reaction? And then so he was giving antihistamines, and this other sort of epiderm cream, of course, has like a bunch of like toxins and, you know, chemicals in it, which we don't usually like to use. So I was like, I am not a doctor. I don't know what is going on. I'm going to trust the pharmacist. Obviously, you need to have this medication at the moment. So let's just go with that. So he started putting the creams on and the antihistamines, and then it was just getting worse and worse. And every day we were in Dublin, it just kept getting worse. So we ended up going to a doctor on the day after we landed, a doctor who said, again, allergic reaction, gave him some stronger antihistamines and a steroid cream, like hydrocortisone for his face. And then the following day, even worse. The day after that, even worse. So then I ended up taking him to the ER because I started panicking. I know it was a blanching rash, and I know that the scary rashes are the non-blanching rashes, but still I was like, what if this is something that can turn overnight? And he started puking as well, which, by the way, we figured out was actually just coincidental. It had nothing to do with the rash. He just happened to puke as well, picked up some gastro thing. But of course, I was linking this all together because Prairie had puked on the Monday, and then Bodhi had the skin rash, and then he had puked. And so then I took him in, and I felt like nobody knew what was going on with my son. And it was really scary. And it actually made me think, you know, you do just put your trust of these wonderful medical professionals. But when it's something that people haven't seen before, everyone's just sort of guessing. And we had a series of different people guessing different things, conflicting suggestions of what it could be. And then I'm like Googling late at night, like meningitis symptoms.
Of course.
You know, no fever, no cough, no runny nose. So I kept telling myself that it wasn't serious, but it just looked ghastly, and his eyes were swollen and his whole face was puffy. Anyway, so we're in the ER for a while, got the same, you know, information, which was that they thought that it was an allergic reaction to something. They said, you'll never know what it is. It's just he's had an allergic reaction to something. But that didn't fully sit right with me because my kids have never been allergic to anything ever. They've never had hives or broken out they don't have eczema. So I was just really perplexed. And of course, having to work during all of this, and my production was getting a bit nervous about it. I think they were worried that it could be contagious and maybe something would come onto me and to the rest of the kids. And, you know, this was like a low budget show.
But so didn't it go to Forrest too?
Well, then he started getting this rash on his face, but it looked different from Bodhi's rash. Right. So it looked like this other weird rash.
Oh my God.
And we happened to be in this house that we stayed in for a few nights that had mice in it. And we ended up calling the production. We were like, there's mice and there's mice droppings and it's a little bit filthy. But I hate complaining about anything ever. So we still stayed there for 3 full nights. And then after I saw the mouse for the third time, I was like, all right, we cannot be staying here. So they moved us to a hotel. And then I was like, was it just something funky in the house that affected both kids? Or, you know, obviously it started on the plane though. And did it just get worse because of our environment? I was just stabbing in the dark. I had no idea. I'm trying to concentrate on work. My beautiful friend Kate, who was my nanny on A Discovery of Witches, and then fell in love with the guy who was doing props on the show in season 1. And they got together, got married, and now they have kids and they live in Wales. She's from Australia, but she just come over to do this job with me. And now she just lives in Wales with her kids. And so I had rung her to say, hey, do you want to come and babysit for a week? So I knew that the kids were in the best of the best hands with Kate, but still I was really worried. And then cut to Prairie has this little red mark on her arm. My one day off, I decide to take my mom to go visit this Catholic shrine called in this place called Knock Island, which is known for, being a place of healing, and there's holy water and anointing of the sick and all these things that my mum just froths over. Like, she's so excited by that. That she had asked to go there, and I knew I had one day off, and I was like, oh man, that's a 3-hour drive there, and then she'd be at the shrine for a few hours and a 3-hour drive back. But oh well, whatever. We can't come all the way here, and she's got this desire to go see it. I've got to make it happen. So,
jeez, you're a good daughter.
I drove her there, and just like her dreams came true. I filmed her walking through the shrine and collecting her little holy water in her Mount Franklin like water bottle that she had.
Oh my god!
This water bottle that she drank from. She collected her holy water, and I was like, Mum, but like, what do you do with that now? Obviously, you can't drink that, but it looks like water. And are you going to take it back with you to America? Like, anyway, so she had holy water for a few days, and then she decided to leave it behind at the hotel. But she just was living her best life with all her, all these wonderful people who she met who are also Catholic. And it was colder, so my kids had sweaters on and jackets on. And I had reached out on Instagram asking people, what should I do with the kids while I'm in Knock? Because there's really nothing to do for kids in Knock. And this really beautiful fan of the Mother Days, her name's Scarlett, she DM'd me on my personal page and gave me a whole list of things to do in the neighborhood. And one of them was this indoor play thing. So I was like, oh my God, perfect. I'll do that. And also I said to her, if you're around, if you want to meet up, you should bring your kids here as well. So I ended up meeting one of our Dazeys at this fun place called Pots of Fun. And it was so divine. She was the most gorgeous woman. She's just had a baby 5 weeks ago. And she also lived 14 months apart or 13 months apart, these little girls.
Wow.
And so she took her daughter, and who's just about to be 15 months old, who was so divine and just clung onto me like a little koala. She was so cute, and she kept giving me these kisses, and it was so nice to just, you never know, you put something out there and, people give you recommendations. But I felt like she just seemed so gorgeous in her DMs. I was like, oh my gosh, why not have a play date with this woman from across the world, this local woman? And we went to this place, and I turn up there, and the kids are off running amok in this indoor play center and having fun. Bodhi's a little bit, he's having less fun because the rash is quite evident on his face, and he's at that age now is a little bit embarrassed by it. So he was kind of sitting and observing more, and he would every now and then he'd get into it, but then he'd sort of sit off to the side and want to just play air hockey with me. And I noticed this woman working there, and I noticed her looking at me, and I was like, I think I know what's going on here. And then she came up to me. She was like, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I've been staring at you, but I am the biggest Daisy. So the woman who worked at Pods of Fun happened to be another Daisy, so that I met these 2 Daisies at the same place. And she was like, I've watched all your movies. I've watched The Choice and A Discovery of Witches and The Clearing and all these things. And she was like, I can't believe it. I can't believe you're here. And I was like, this is awesome. This is just so cool to meet these women. We were talking about the podcast. We all took photos together. And
I saw that.
Yes, we had such a great afternoon. Just connecting with these beautiful women, these Irish women from, across the other side of the world. And I just thought, that is the special thing about social media, is that you get to have interactions like that and really have these face-to-face connections with people who admire your work and love what we're doing with the podcast. And it just felt really good. So that was the beautiful afternoon that I had. And then I took the kids back to pick up my mum. We drove into town. I had to get wrap gifts for the next day because it was my last day. And as we were getting to the dinner place we ate at this great vegan place in Dublin called the Saucy Cow, and they've just got really good burgers and fries. I took Prairie's sweater off for the first time, and she had been rugged up all day, and I took it off and I was like, can Mummy have a look at your boo-boo, at your arm? Which it did start out as a mosquito bite, and then earlier that morning it looked like a little bit of a blister, and then by that time, 8:00 at night, it was like her flesh had been eaten by something.
Oh my God.
And I panicked. It was the first time, like with Bodhi and the rash, I never panicked, and I was never really overly worried about it because aside from him having a rash, he was his own normal personality. Yeah. Everything was fine. But this suddenly, the escalation from where it was in the morning to where it was at nighttime, and it looked like this gaping hole in her arm. Yeah. We didn't finish our meals. I was like, we're out. Like I just everyone was like eating burgers on the run. I dropped the kids home and I drove her straight back to the ER, and they're like, oh my God, you're back again. I was like, yeah, I'm back again with my 2-year-old this time. And, you know, we showed the arm and they were very perplexed. They had no idea what it was.
Another unknown. Wow.
For the second time that week, I was like, I must just look like that insane mother who keeps bringing her children into the ER. But I really had legitimate reason for it. And again, like, I don't like to err on the side of caution with these things, especially she's so little, and it had jumped up so much in such a short period of time that I didn't want to leave it overnight and have it get even bigger, and then, you know, really she could get into a state of sepsis. Like, there's so many things that could go wrong. So I was really glad to be seen quickly there. Although we got there about 9, and by the time you see a nurse, and then you come back, and then you wait, and then you see the doctor. So by the time we saw the doctor, we left the hospital at 1:45 a.m.
Oh my God.
And I'm on this text thread with Sarah and a couple of our other friends. And I was just up texting with these guys being like, I am in the ER with my kids for the second time this week. But you guys were my entertainment as I was sitting there like, this is insane. And Prairie was just chatty Kathy, like up and chatting to everyone at midnight. And I finally got her to sleep at 1 a.m. She was the entertainment for the waiting room with all these sick children.
Oh, I'm sure.
And she was just like on one. It was really funny and so cute. But eventually we met with this doctor, and she thought potentially it was a house spider, which is hilarious that it's coming from.
That doesn't even make sense.
We live in Australia. I know. I was like, did she get bitten by like a mouse? Like, what happened? What is this bite? And then Kate was like, I didn't see it happen. We have no idea what the bite was or if it was a bite. But then Prairie was like, a spider bit me. And I was like, oh my gosh, did it? Like, what did the spider look like? She was like, it was a big bear. The bear bit my arm. And I was like, so did the bear bite your arm? Or did the spider bite your arm? And then she was like, a bee stung me. I was like, oh Jesus, great. I'm never going to know what it was. I know. So I was like, okay, so it was a bear, it was a bee.
Is the face rash better?
The face rash got better. Thank God the next day he woke up, and I had put him in the sun. I was like, we need to go out in the sun. You just need to be in vitamin D and just like have the sun on your body. And so the vitamin D really helped with the skin rash. So that slowly started getting better, thank God. And actually it's still slightly there, but it's almost pretty much gone. But then Prairie, I had to do antibiotics with her, and giving antibiotics, which taste like shit, to a 2-year-old is like
the worst.
Such a fight. It is so hard.
Such a bummer.
I've tried doing it when she's asleep. I've tried bribing her. I've tried with TV. I've tried with like, you get Skittles afterwards, like anything.
You have to like shoot it down their throat, basically.
Oh my gosh. And then she like gags on it and spits it out. Yeah. And I mean, it has been so hard, but I managed to finish the course of antibiotics. and it's sort of dried up into this fleshy scab, and it doesn't, I think it's going to scar. I think she'll have a little scar there. But anyway, that was the majority of my Dublin experience, unfortunately, because it's such a beautiful city.
Which had like nothing really to do with your work experience. It was more like all the chaos outside of work.
Oh my God. And then the puking. And Bodhi is the only kid of my 4 who can't puke in a bowl. Like when he pukes, he's just like exorcist everywhere, all over the bed, on the carpet, in my shoes, in my all over my mum's sleep apnea machine.
Stop it.
And vomit smell to me is so rank. And he was vomiting. Like I got back from work at like 9:45 p.m. one night, and Kate was like, oh, he's vomited. And poor Kate, she had a little daughter with us as well. So her little daughter's not quite 2. And poor Kate was cleaning up my kid's puke. And I was like, oh my God, you have been with us for 1 week. And we've had all these crazy medical things happen. She had to clean up Prairie's puke on the Monday when I worked. And then she cleaned up Bodhi's puke that night. And then she went to bed. And then I was dealing with the puke for the whole rest of the night. And he had eaten like miso soup, like a lot of miso soup and rice. And so it was this like pungent smell.
Horrible.
And I was like gagging. But then the other kids who have eventually got the pukes and now have moved through it, they are so neat with their vomiting. They'll like spring out of bed and run to the toilet and puke in the toilet. I was like, Bodhi, how are you the oldest? How are you the oldest of the 4? And you're just like, someone will clean it up. Blah. I'm like, next time you're going to have to clean it up.
I have 2 kids that are very neat and 1 kid that throws up like everywhere, just like paints the walls. But
I'm just like, how?
When I was a kid, my mom she had such an intense gag reflex when it came to throw up that I would start puking. And I was actually a wall puker too. Like I puked all over my bed and ran into the hallway to try to make it to the bathroom because it was like kind of far from my room. And I would like throw up on the walls down the hall and then like somehow throw up in the bathroom floor and then on the toilet, you know? So my mom would come out and then she would start throwing up because she like could smell it and it would make her gag and throw up. And so my poor dad would always have to clean up after me and my mom. My mom was like, stay out of the room, Mom. Like she couldn't handle it. But my dad would like, he would come in and be like, okay, I'm going to clean everything up. That's like so yuck. Oh my God.
I find puke so much worse than poo. Like I will deal with poo any day, but puke, and I was doing the same thing. I was like,
it smells so bad.
Like I just was gagging and gagging and gagging. It was so foul. So, you know, that's what I really got to see of Dublin was the inside of the hospital. I know the children's hospital very well. I know exactly the best place to park, like where to go to pay for your parking now, which is very specific.
That's insane.
Look, it's a cool city, and I did hang out at Temple Bar. I went out a couple of nights. I went to my drinks, my sort of farewell drinks, which was really fun. And we went to this really cool, like, speakeasy bar with everyone. And it was this, like, underground. You have to door knock, and the guy looks at you and he decides whether, like, you're worthy of coming into the place. And then it's all, like, lit up red. And it was so dope. And we ended up playing pool all night, which was really fun. You have to win the table. Cool. And then we just had such a blast, and, you know, so that was really, really fun. And I'm glad that I got to have that experience amongst the rest of it. And then that road trip to Knock was like, at first it was just like on the highway, and I was like, oh God, this is very tiring for me. I'm very tired. I've been working. I've been up with Prairie. You know, I had 4 hours sleep because I had to be up at work after the ER trip. I had to be up at work at 6.
I can't believe you still did that.
Yeah, it was crazy. But then it turned into this beautiful Irish countryside where it was like a one lane, and all the trees were growing over the top on both sides to make this arch. And it was so beautiful. And these horses would come right up to the road and put their heads over the fences. So we pulled off to the side a couple of times and we pat 2 different horses along the way. And I was like, this is beautiful. And I'm so glad that I took my mum there to have that experience, but also because I got to see a little bit more of Ireland that I didn't necessarily get to see, you know, with all the troublesome medical situations that we were faced with for the week.
That is so crazy. Oh my gosh. That's so nuts.
Crazy. How have you been?
I've been good. You know, we're in the last couple weeks of school. So since I talked to you last, I know we text a lot, but the last few weeks of school have just been bananas. And so every year, 4th and 5th grade together do this big play at school. And this year, I guess every year, the 4th grade is sort of it's the 5th grade's play and the 4th grade kind of fills in all the parts, the extra parts, right? And so in 5th grade is kind of when you get all the big roles, right? And so my son's in 4th grade. And so he had this role of the Candy Man, if you remember the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So he had this role of the Candy Man. And so I honestly tried to run lines with him a couple of times to help him out, but he'd been working on it since January, and it was a musical. They made it. They had it be a musical, so all the songs in the original film, the kids were singing. So I was so excited to see it, but I had zero idea that it was a massive production with sets and set changes and costumes and everything, and their unbelievable music teacher at their school puts him and this other teacher, they put this whole thing on together, and it's all choreographed, and it was unbelievable. Wyatt had a solo and I was crying. His voice was so beautiful, and he was so natural on stage, and just Eric and I were oh my God, you know, when your kid does something and you're just kind of wait, what? This is so cool.
Yeah.
And so we got to see this amazing play, and Esme's class has a play too. Every class has a play, but it's much smaller. This is the massive play for the end of the year. So hers was adorable, but then this was their big production. So we got to see that, which was really fun.
How amazing. And see him shine in that way. That's gorgeous.
I know.
And for people who don't know, Sarah has this unbelievable singing voice. She has this unbelievable, the most beautiful singing voice, and she sung at my wedding. And then here I am hearing that Wyatt was on stage and had a solo, and I was I bet you he inherited that gift from you.
You're so sweet. Thank you. Well, it was amazing to see, and I just it just melted my heart, because I was so proud of him, but also just it seemed so natural for him. He was just did his lines with such ease, and he just shined. He was so cute. And so we got to do that, and then they're in their last week and a half right now, or this is their last week of school. And so we've just been wrapping up all the year end stuff with that, and I just can't believe I have a kid who's going to be a 5th grader. I just can't. It's nuts. And that Esme's going into 2nd, and and Winter's going into her 2nd year of preschool, and she's so proud. I just did all their parent teacher conferences. It was so cute. And anyway, but I do feel I don't know. Okay, so wait, what day was this? This is Saturday. So I think the full moon on Friday of this week, and then Saturday was such a weird day. We had 2 insane dog interactions, 2 crazy dog interactions on Saturday. Yes. So So sorry, guys, we're just doing the dish right now. Okay. But I went to so Wyatt goes to water polo on Saturday mornings. And so I took the girls, we went to go get coffee at the coffee shop. And we go to the same coffee shop every day. Like, I know the guy who works there. He's so sweet. And the girls and I are in line and we're kind of chatting and whatever. And Winter's wearing her Grogu or Baby Yoda, whatever, however you want to call it, ears that she got from Disneyland because she loves Star Wars. And so she's wearing these little ears, and there's a woman who has a dog, and it's like a miniature poodle, but they're still pretty big size, right? Inside the coffee shop. And so Winter kind of walks by the dog, and she kind of like, ooh, makes like a little face, towards the dog, but she's wearing these ears. So I'm wondering if this is why, but the dog like went crazy, like, and like lunged at her. Whoa. And the woman had a leash, and she like pulls the dog back, and Winter, like, it scared her so bad that she then came to run towards me, just sobbing. And as she ran towards me, the dog lunged after her again, like he wanted to bite her, and like went nuts. And the woman pulled the dog back again. And then the guy that we know behind the thing was like, you have to take the dog outside. And she took the dog outside. And then he turned to me and he was like, she just made the biggest deal about bringing that dog inside the coffee shop. He's like, I told her that you can't bring the dog inside unless it's a service animal. And then she was like, well, it is, and demanded that her dog be inside. And then her dog tries to attack my child twice. And
oh my God.
Like, it's insane. And so I was
why would you ever, if you have a dog that has a tendency to do that, like,
why would you ever do that?
Ever like have your dog in an enclosed area with other people?
Yeah, like it was nuts. So I was like holding her. She cried for 20 minutes. She was totally traumatized. I had to sit outside with her and like calm her down. She was like freaked out by it. And thankfully the dog didn't try to bite her, but like the woman was like trying to tell me like, I'm sorry. He just like, and she was going to say something and then stopped herself. And I was like, she stopped herself because she knows that it's not a service animal, and she's lied to them all, saying that, and apparently made like a big like stink about it in whatever. So we were leaving, and the woman was like, sorry, and I was like, okay. I was like,
yeah.
As my daughter's like, sobbing.
And like that, you don't know the long lasting effects that experience could have on her with dogs.
But then, so later that day, we're at the park and we have another incident. There's two dogs that show up at the park, two bulldogs, and they're hilarious. Like, this is a park in our neighborhood, and usually like no one has their dogs off leash, just like running towards the park. So I see these two dogs barreling down, and they're little bulldogs, and they're so funny, like very thick, like it's not a French bulldog, it's a bulldog. So they're like big guys.
Yeah.
And chunky. I see them and they're running all over the place, like, breathe really loud, so funny. Came up to us, like, this brown one, like came up to us, and he was just like so cute and like wanted us to pet him. His tail's going crazy. I'm like, oh, they're so sweet. And then the other one comes over and he comes right up next to me and he's doing the same thing. And so like I, rub his back too. And then all of a sudden he like turns towards me and then goes crazy and starts like barking and lunging at my face. And I'm like sitting like on the ground. Yes. And I was like, oh my God. And I freaked out and like jumped back. And then Winter went crazy because of course this just happened to her.
Oh my God. And like, day.
I know. And I pick Winter up and I'm holding her. Thank God Eric's there, because I'm like, all the kids get on the play thing, like the play structure. So we all jumped up on the play structure, because then again, like, there's two bulldogs running out, but there's no, their owners are not there and they don't have collars on. And I was like, wait, these dogs must have accidentally gotten out of someone's house and then came down here. And so all the kids were all in the play structure, and the brown one is so funny. He's like running up on the play structure and then going down the slide. On his own and like running after the kids, and he's hilarious. But the other one is like losing his shit and like barking at Eric and like barked at Esme again, like as Esme went to get off the play structure because she's like such an animal lover. She's like, he's fine. Maybe he's scared. And he's like, rah, 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 right at her. And she's like, okay, never mind. I'm just going to stay up here. And so I know. And so I was just like, just stay on the play structure because he won't come up here. And I was like, Eric, you have to like coerce him to get out of here. So Eric sort of just started walking towards him, like showing dominance. And he sort of was like afraid and was backing away and then, ran off towards his home. Of course, 7 minutes later, the owners are in a full panic going around the neighborhood looking for their dogs. So the dogs had escaped. And that's what happened is like, and that dog is blind. So that's why that's why the dog was afraid. I think the dog maybe thought that I was like somebody that he knew or whatever. And then he got close to me, realized that he didn't know me and then freaked out or something, but apparently the dog's blind. So like, because it was such a weird reaction. I was like, he got all the way up to me and like shaking his tail and I like pat him. And then all of a sudden he like turns towards me and then he just like freaked out, and I was like,
whoa.
Oh my God.
It must be really discombobulating being in an area it doesn't know with smells. It doesn't, whatever. Maybe that's kind of why it had a bug out. Jesus. Were you like going home being like, what is the meaning of this? What does this represent?
I was thinking a little bit. I was like, wait, what is happening right now? Like it was a full moon. We had 2 really bad dog encounters today. Like, I think I had a big talk with the girls about, because, you guys know, Esme will just go up to any animal, like birds, lizards, like beetle, like whatever it is. And she like tries to help them or rescue them. And she's just like, that's just her. And so it was like a nice little lesson for us to go back to like, okay, even if the dog seems really friendly, like we have to, we have to have a system where we like look at the owner and ask them, is it okay if we pet them? And put your hand out, let them smell you first, like the whole thing. But, it was just like, I would assume if a dog is inside of a coffee shop, it won't be an aggressive animal. And I would assume
if you're going to make the choice, like, oh my God. Sorry, I can hear Mark yelling at children downstairs.
Oh dear.
Something at the pool right now.
God. So someone pooped in the pool.
Oh, no, I've been up here for 2 hours. I've had a Zoom meeting into this. I'm like, it's all falling apart.
Right. Oh dear. Yeah.
Yeah. I took a leaf out of your book, Sarah, and today is my day 1 of dedicating to working out. So this is my day 1. I know. And I feel the endorphins. Like even while I was in it, even though it was hard, because I'm so atrophied and I haven't worked out in years and years. I was like, wow. I have no muscles in my stomach at all. I was trying to do sit-ups. I was like, oh wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, but it's hard. But it'll get easier. Yes, I know it'll get easier. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was doing the arms. So so it's Bodhi and me. And this is just, I've just been bloody loving this lately. Actually, one of my favorite moments I had in Dublin was I was walking him to the pharmacy for yet another pharmacist checkup. And we were walking together and he put his arms around my shoulders because he's like getting to that height now where he can do that. And he just sort of wrapped his arm around my shoulders and we'd been laughing and chatting on the way there. And he was like, hey, Mom, you're my best friend. And I was like, oh my God. And he was like, I just feel like I can really talk to you about anything and you're so fun and I'm always laughing with you and like we have a really good time together. And I was like, like full, like tears, dying
emotional.
Inside. Yes.
They're not in front of him because I played it really cool in front of him. I was like, oh my gosh, that means so much, Bodhi. But I just noticed such a shift in our relationship recently as he's getting older. And so this morning I was like, I'm going to do this like 30 days of workouts and wellness. And and he was like, oh my gosh, me too. I really want to do that with you. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, I really want to. So we just went on YouTube and we started with 10 minutes of abs, Then we did 10 minutes of like butt and legs.
Love it.
And then we did 10 minutes of HIIT, like cardio workout.
Yes.
And then we finished with 10 minutes of arms. And I'm already sore from this morning. But I have to say, I feel amazing. And doing it with Bodhi was really motivating. We kept like cheering each other on. Like the arms get really monotonous. Like after a while, your arms feel really crazy sore when you're doing the 100th loop in a row. And then they're like, and now go backwards for 20 seconds. And my arms are just burning and want to drop off.
Ooh.
But we were just cheering each other on. And it felt so good. And I got back to LA and I was like, right, I am going to dedicate myself to fitness again.
Yes.
And I'm doing intermittent fasting. I'm going to be doing my intermittent fasting, my 16-8 for the next 30 days. So I'm trying all for 30 days. And then every morning I wake up, I have my Lovewell supplements. So I'm like, okay, if I'm doing this with the intermittent fasting and I'm working out every day, I know that I'm going to feel a difference. And already I feel more positive and excited. And I got home to Hottie McHotto husband, who's been on this regimen
working out every day
for the last
for 6 weeks, even gone
every single day. Having supplements. Oh, he's walking in front of me right now with his shirt off, looking hot, looking the hottest I've ever seen him. Like seriously, like wanted to jump his bones as soon as I got home.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh my God, Mark, you're in such amazing shape. He's been taking care of himself. He's taking his supplements every day. He's just like meditating and doing all the things. And it was so inspiring. And I will say that that's one thing that I do love about LA. Like I often get here and feel really inspired to just like get back on the exercise train and really focus on my health. So that's what I've done. And I'm really inspired by you and Eric, and Sarah gave me all these amazing workouts today with the Peloton app. So I'm getting on it, guys.
So fun.
Getting on it. My 30 days.
We'll have to get you some weights so that you can do.
I gotta get weights.
You can do the body weight workouts on Peloton, but you will love the way it feels to work out with like 5-10 pound weights. You'll just love it. Afterwards, you're going to be like, oh my, like that's what's so addicting. Like as soon as I started doing it, I was like, wait, I actually am obsessed with this. Feels so good. And then you only have to do 20 or 30 minutes a day. You don't have to do all, because like it's really hard to schedule in, 40 minutes to an hour plus like driving to a gym or whatever. But if you just do 20 to 30 minutes, you can get like these workouts are so that you get everything you need in that amount of time. So it's just like, it works you hard, but it's so good. So yay! I'm so proud of you.
I'll keep everyone updated.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh my God. I'm so proud of you. It's so amazing. And you'll just see like how you start feeling so good. And it'll help you with your jet lag and all of that. So it's amazing.
It already feels so good. Yay.
Well, somehow we're already at the end of our time, so we'll have to circle back again in a few days. But we love you, Dazeys, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Bye, guys. Woo-woo.